Hello. Today, on the 16th of the 11th, 23, the Socialist Workers' Party had a little shindig and they dropped this. They discuss, we're just going to have a listen to the first speaker, and she's going to discuss how the protests are being organised and taking the kids out of school protests and things like that. It's worth noting, though, that the Socialists have been into the Free Palestine thing a lot longer than the queer and trans rights stuff. And they've been they're making the most of this opportunity. How's that?
Okay, so I just want to start by saying a massive welcome to everyone in this room. Welcome to this organising assembly for Palestine. It's obviously great that we've got so many people here today for this incredibly important meeting. So my name's Samira Ali. I'm an activist. I'm a student at Goldsmiths University, and I'm really excited to be facilitating this event tonight. I'm excited to be on a platform with such brilliant speakers that we'll be hearing from. So just so we get a sense of how many people are here tonight, we've got an overflow room next door that's also completely packed out. So our speakers will be speaking kind of between the two rooms, but we'll sort it out. Okay, it's gonna run very smoothly, I promise. Okay, so obviously I don't think I need to tell anyone how much of an important time it is to be having this meeting. We are witnessing the second Nakba unfolding in Gaza. More than 11,000 dead that have been, dead and killed. 1.5 million people forced to leave their homes, and we're really seeing an ethnic cleansing.
You see what I mean? Like, she's not meaning to come across so excited about it. It's just like they've been waiting for years for not atrocities so much, but we can get out there and viva the revolution, that stuff.
Taking place on a scale that's not been seen for decades. But obviously, we are also seeing, a mass movement in solidarity with Palestine. 1 million people marched through the streets of London just on Saturday, and I think we ought to think of it. Did we see, the biggest demonstration for Palestine in Britain, in British history, but we've also seen, students walking out of universities, people taking over train stations and public places, and saying shut it down for Palestine. And I think if all of that wasn't enough, obviously we have got a lot to celebrate today, because finally, Suella Braverman has this event tonight to bring together lots of different groups to discuss how we can, continue, coordinate and deepen the movement for Palestine here in the UK. So the way that this assembly is going to work is we'll hear from the speakers up here first, and then we're going to go into breakouts. So the breakouts will be for workplace and trade unionists, students and our campuses, and then the third one will be local areas and local activists. And we don't want this to be just a talking shop. We want people to be able to discuss, to network and coordinate, and for people to think about what is next for the movement and to go away with plans for more action. Okay, so without further ado, I want to invite our first speaker, who is Shelley Asquith. So Shelley is co-chair of the Stop the War Coalition, who are one of the organisers of the massive protests we have seen over the last few weeks, and obviously including, pulling off the massive feat on Saturday. So over to Shelley.
Wow, it's such an intimidatingly big crowd. I'm going to take my glasses off so I can't see you quite so clearly. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, I'm Shelley. I'm co-chair of the Stop the War Coalition. Is that better? Yeah. I'm Shelley. I'm co-chair of the Stop the War Coalition. I'm used to chairing meetings rather than speaking at them. But evening, brothers, sisters, comrades and friends, it's great to see such a massive turnout tonight for this meeting, another really packed event. I don't think I've seen so much sustained activity like this since the Occupy movement. Every night in London there's something going on, whether it's a meeting like this, a protest, a sit-in at a train.
Sorry, the Occupy movement. Just note that one, because they do a lot of gigs. protests. Yep.
Station, march, whatever. And we've really got to keep that momentum up. We can't allow those in power any rest until they use that power to force a ceasefire, to stop arming Israel, or get out of the way. And speaking of which, as we all know, and of course we weren't marching on Saturday for Suella to be sacked, we were marching for a ceasefire. But we were also marching in the context of defying her and her police and her gaggle of grimy fascists at the cenotaph,
Yes.
who in their different ways were piling on the pressure for us to call it off. And it demonstrates that marching does make a difference. If it didn't make a difference, they wouldn't try to stop us. First, they tried to stop us waving the Palestinian flag, and so we waved it higher on street corners and in shops and on demonstrations all across the country. And then they tried to stop our chants, but no amount of suppression can silence the freedom cries of Palestinians the world over. And then, of course, they tried to stop the march, but we marched like we've never marched before for the Palestinian people. 800,000 to 1 million maybe on the streets of London, absolutely incredible. And so I think we can absolutely take credit for her downfall. Yes. But out with the old and in with the even older, it feels like a bit of a throwback, and it's been a while since we've chanted "fuck off back to Eton." But yet we have the man who made the world a whole lot more dangerous by bombing Libya, now back in the fray as Foreign Secretary. A man who, not long after leaving Eton in the 1980s while Mandela was in jail, took a trip to apartheid South Africa, funded by an organisation campaigning against sanctions. A man who enabled Israeli war crimes year after year, with thousands of British bombs used in the bombardment of Gaza in 2014. A man who spoke of swarms of migrants, allowing the demonisation of refugees to become so entrenched that people now don't question why are Palestinians refugees in their own land, who don't question that the Israeli settler violence forces them from their homes, and a man who sought to criminalise those who opposed his imperialism with his racist prevent duty. So a reshuffle is a reshuffle, nothing much changes, and the way things stand on this question, whichever way it goes at a general election, it will still be a reshuffle, because this government, as it sanctions formally a genocide, it has no formal opposition, which is why we have to still be the opposition. On Wednesday night, we expect them to be tested. We're expecting there to be a vote on the SNP amendment calling for a ceasefire. And so another action for all of us is to be out on the streets on Wednesday night to protest outside Parliament as that vote takes place. MPs will be given the chance to force the government to call on Israel to stop the slaughter, and whether they do or not could come down to the level of pressure that we place on them. So I think between now and then we need to be shaming anyone who doesn't say they're backing that amendment, and if they don't, they should be shamed for that as well. Because it is those in the British government and its allies in the States who continue to make this possible. Not just with the political will, but of course the weapons. So while a ceasefire is our immediate demand, we also don't overlook those existing demands. To end the occupation, sanction the occupation, and free Palestine. Ceasefire is the bare minimum to stop this genocide, and to understand that that is what it is. We don't need to listen to the last gasps of the breaths of babies dying in hospitals with no power left on their emergency generators. We don't need to watch the starving dogs feeding on decaying bodies, or to look at the civilian death toll, more in a month than in 25 months of the war in Ukraine. We only need to listen to look at the people who are perpetrating it. To Netanyahu, who talks about wiping out Palestinians. To his internal minister, who talks about erasing Gaza off the face of the earth. Or his defence minister, who speaks of human animals. Israel has made it abundantly clear their intention to take unprecedented life and land in Gaza, to create another Nakba. And so you have to question the mentality of those who call for an emergency pause. A pause, like it's a computer game. A pause for what? So they can make a cup of tea before the slaughtering continues, until they succumb to their inevitable death. An unwillingness to understand the root of violence does nothing to protect life, Palestinian or Israeli. And we marked the 75th anniversary of the Nakba in May this year with a demonstration on the streets, calling for the Palestinian right to exist, resist and return. We took to the streets again in July, following Israel's brutal attack on the Jenin refugee camp. And I know many in this room have been active on this issue for many years previous, because we all know that the route to ending this is an end to the occupation and the war on the Palestinian people. The first demonstration I ever took part in was in 2009. I came to London as a teenager to join the march against Israel's assault on Gaza. And it was at the time the biggest mobilisation in this country for Palestine. We said 100,000 people took to the streets. But in the last month, we've exceeded those numbers 4 times over. Those marches in the last month will have been many other young people's first taste of protest. And so we have to keep up that pace. We have to keep those people, young or old, engaged, involved, and aiming their anger at those in power. That won't always mean a national march in London. In fact, it strengthens the movement if we're building capacity and contacts in our local areas like we're doing tonight, and protesting in a range of ways to a range of targets. This Wednesday, Stop the War is calling from people in our trade union network to take action in their workplace, whether it's a walkout, a meeting, something to engage your colleagues, get them talking, get them committing to taking part in future action. And we're hoping that will build to a weekly Wednesday workplace action with more union branches getting involved as time goes on. And the same with the school strike, inspiring to see all these young people walking out of their schools on Friday just gone on the week previous, and that's building week on week as well, with university students joining them. This Friday we're expecting that to be more widespread still. And on Saturday we're expecting local groups across the country to be organising local actions to build up bases and show people that in every city, town, even village, that in this country that there are people who stand with Palestine. And I know that on Saturday, for those who are local to this area in particular, there's going to be a rally at Highbury and Islington Station at 12:30 called by Stop the War, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, CND. And you can find out who the speakers are tomorrow, but do get in touch if you want to help build that particular local action as well. Because it's through a mass movement that is present everywhere that we oppose imperialism everywhere too. We build opposition to Britain's role not just in Israel's war on Gaza, but in prolonging the war in Ukraine, in its arming of the Saudi-led war on Yemen, and to this entire warmongering government. Because Suella might be out of the door today, but tomorrow we're coming for the rest of them.
So, there's some party protest planning. Oh, Socialist, yeah. So Wednesdays, what are we doing? Get the kids out of school, striking. Get them in young too, because you want to get them young protesting and stuff. And yeah, get everyone in the union protesting at work. Yeah. So this is why they know to show up at courts and stuff like that to protest. I just want to emphasize it, okay? It's not just about what's happening on the Middle East, okay? It's not just about that. The socialist movement, it's a trigger for them to get their Viva Revolution on, okay? So you can see how excited they are with the thing I just showed you. Viva the Revolution, it's all in the unions, and like I said, this is just a catalyst, what's going on. Yeah. And the protesters are everyone they represent. So from, the abortion people to the trans and the queers and the and bring down the monarchy and all of them all together let's all go protest because we're all part of the socialists. Except for when it's the queers and the trans people, Palestinians don't show up for them. Anyway, hope I'm on a point. See you later, bye.